Hey, what's up everybody? This is Austin, aka Try Something. What I'm going to talk to you about today is a few problems I noticed with the SHIV that you can avoid by doing some small things before you go on a bike ride. The first problem is this bolt that holds the Aerobar onto this handlebar. This bolt right here will actually snap or it will loosen after just a few rides. So try to get in the habit of loosening up this rest, pulling this rest back, and tightening up this bolt right here. Tightening up that bolt will eliminate the possibility of riding and then all of a sudden it goes loose, and that can cause an accident and is very dangerous. So get in the habit of tightening that bolt. The bolt did snap on me one time and that almost caused an accident too. So you might want to change it every season. It happens more on the right side than it does the left side, because on the right side you're always reaching over and grabbing the brake and you're putting weight back on, reaching over. I think that puts more stress on the bolt itself. Another problem that I found is that the brakes will stick. It usually happens after you let your bike sit for a couple days, and you can avoid that problem by lubricating a couple areas and then also being aware of something. The rear brakes will actually stick on the rear like they are right now. There's a couple different ways that you can eliminate that. What we're going to do is we are going to grab our lubricant. I prefer the aircraft lubricant because it is waterproof and it seems to really increase performance. What we can do is lubricate the hole that the cable comes out of. Put it in here. And there you go. We can also, this portion right here can actually get pushed into the frame, and that will cause the brakes to rub as well. So what we can do is we can actually pull it out a little bit more, give it a little bit more space, and what that will do is it'll cause the rear brakes to open up a little bit. And that will prevent your brakes from sticking as well. When you hit the brakes, it'll get pulled in just a little bit, but it sort of self-adjusts in a way that makes it work out pretty well. The third problem that I noticed people having is the water bladder. There's a water bladder that can be installed here, and it'll actually go down and sit inside the fuselage. When we install the bladder, it needs to be empty, and the bladder can sometimes, when you put it in, it will jam up right along here, and people sometimes force it in. You'll try to stick it in a few times and it'll actually jam up, and then you'll eventually feel like it went in and you fill it up with water, and you'll try to drink and it won't allow you to because the tube is kinked inside here. So it's important that we know how to install the bladder so that when we actually do go on our ride, we can drink water and we don't have to empty out the bladder and waste all our water and mess around with it on the road. So here is the bladder. We're going to need to install it empty. First of all, we need to make sure that it's clean. We install it and we try to push it down in there. And at first, you'll try to push it down in there and it doesn't want to go down for some reason. You can try to shimmy it in there. Sometimes it will, but most of the time it won't. And you can push it in there and clip it. The problem is that this tube right here will actually bend this way and kink right along here. The bladder does not want to just go in here and slide in very gently, and that creates a few different problems. What that'll do is when it'll kink up, it'll allow you to put water into it and it'll seem like it's fine. And then you go out on your ride and you try to drink and you won't be able to get any water to your mouth. So if that ever happens, you can't pull out the bladder with water in it. You got to stop, empty out all the water, pull out the bladder, and then try to mess with it for a long time trying to get it in there. I did notice this issue with other people that had the SHIV. I was at Escape from Alcatraz Triathlon, and I noticed two different people that would ride this bike but not without the bladder. And I sort of pried on why, and they said it was a pain in the butt. And I can assume that this is why they considered it a pain in the butt, because it can be unreliable if you don't know how to properly install the water bladder. The technique to installing the water bladder is getting some basic lubricant, something that will just make it a little bit more slippery going in, and it's very useful. So what we can do is just spray a little lubricant on both sides. What I like to do is spray a little lubricant right down here on the bottom so it gets nice and slippery. We can set our lubricant aside, and now we have lubricant on the bladder, both sides, just a little bit, you don't need a lot, and then it's inside the fuselage. So when we go ahead and install the bladder, and put a little bit of pressure this way, and then we can put it in, and then it slides right in. I can feel it slide into the fuselage. And there we have it. The next common problem that I noticed is that after a couple weeks of riding, you may want to shift the gears, and you'll shift a gear and you'll actually hear a clicking noise. And you'll pedal and you'll hear this clicking noise, and you're going to wonder what it is, and you'll get back home and you'll do some riding just around the block, and you may not be able to figure it out. The rear derailleur will actually become unaligned with the rear gear rings. What happens is after a while, the rear derailleur will actually become offset and move to the left, or it'll move to the right. So when you shift gears, it won't be perfectly aligned with the gear that you're shifting into. What it'll do is it'll rub on the ring gear that it just shifted away from. It'll be a little bit hard to tell if we try to adjust it after the fact. As soon as you hear the clicking noise, stop, get off your bike, and check the rear part of the chain. What you're going to do is you're going to see if the rear derailleur is perfectly aligned with the gear that you're trying to switch into. This component right here, this will spin. What this will do is it'll cause the rear derailleur to move to the left, or it'll cause it to move to the right. As soon as you hear that clicking noise on your bike, get off, make sure it's aligned, and adjust the rear derailleur.